Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts, and this is an answer questions episode, and even though there's only one question today, but hey, what can you do? Alright, this question is from Rainey from Embarrassed, Wisconsin. What has been learned about Argentinosaurus? Well, far as we know, Argentinosaurus found in Argentina, and has the namesake Argentinosaurus, and basically lived in the mid-Cretaceous, in between early and late Cretaceous, probably around 110 to 95 million years ago, and it was actually pretty much over 100 feet long, and it was big. But basically, when it was discovered in 1991, it was actually considered to be the largest dinosaur ever found, and also to be the heaviest dinosaur ever found. But since now that there's been more sauropods, that is the group of dinosaurs that Argentinosaurus belongs to, and it's actually the long-necked dinosaurs, there's actually kind of new sauropods that have been coming out that's saying that there's sauropods that are bigger than Argentinosaurus and probably heavier than Argentinosaurus, and so there's basically going to be like new discoveries all the time of whether or not which sauropod is actually going to be considered the largest ever dinosaur to be found. But there's still probably a lot more dinosaurs out there to be discovered, so there's still a little bit more digging up to do, and especially right now it's actually kind of fossil hunting season, so everybody's actually kind of so almost every paleontologist out there is actually kind of digging up some dinosaur fossils up here in the northern hemisphere. So northern hemisphere is basically summertime, and so it's actually the time when fossil hunting is actually at its peak. So, but anyway, what we have learned about Argentinosaurus is basically it's a very large dinosaur, of course. And of course it's a slow-moving animal, considering that it's a sauropod. It's very, very bulky, heavy kind of dinosaur, and also it's considered to be in the family called Titanosaurs. Is actually the group of sauropods that actually roamed around the Cretaceous period after like the Brachiosaurs and the Diplodocids and those kinds of dinosaurs actually kind of went extinct. And now that Titanosaurs actually took over, but I think because since that Titanosaurs are very closely related to the Brachiosaurs, but even though they're actually but since their necks are kind of held horizontally, they're pretty much going to be almost closely related to like animals like Camarasaurus and probably almost to a certain extent to some dinosaurs like Apatosaurus. But since their skulls are a little bit more bigger bigger than the slender kinds like Diplodocus and Apatosaurus, those kinds of dinosaurs. Those dinosaurs are kind of more slender sauropods, whereas the bulkier sauropods are actually like the Brachiosaurids and also the Camarasaurids. So, since I think it's probably safe to say that Titanosaurs are actually kind of more closely related to Camarasaurus than some of the other sauropods that actually were dominant in the Jurassic. And of course, like with all sauropods, they have a small brain compared to their body size. Excuse me. And since that their senses are not as well developed as other dinosaurs, like their sense of sight, hearing, and smell are not very well developed. They're not the brightest of the dinosaurs of all, considering that they're very large, and also that they didn't really need a big brain for their body size. You could get bigger, and if you could get big, you wouldn't have any chance. you would have no predators whatsoever attacking you. But of course, like with all sauropods, they were most vulnerable when they were and basically in the embryos and the eggs, and also all the way up to like probably sub-adult stages of their lives, because those are the kinds of ages where they are actually very vulnerable to predators. And the most common predators around during the time of Argentinosaurus is Giganotosaurus and Mapusaurus. Those are the dinosaurs that are going to be the most common predators that it's actually going to face. And when we actually see Argentinosaurus in terms of its skeletal structure, you see it's a very bulky dinosaur. It's a very bulky dinosaur, heavyweight, and it's actually very slow moving. Probably wouldn't actually be moving faster. Probably would actually reach a peak of like maybe at least 4 miles per hour if you can actually get it to run that fast. If you could get it to run fast enough, but since that sauropods were too heavy to actually run very fast distances, and also they couldn't gallop, so they were pretty much just trying to kind of like almost like shuffle running, you know, to actually like try to get away from predators, especially when they're scared. But since that, I think mainly the bigger adult Argentinosaurus would actually be capable of handling its own against predators. So basically, it could actually defend itself just by basically showing off its size, and also it actually just use that tail as a really good weapon to actually whip the predator away. And also, when you actually see Argentinosaurus' skeleton, it's actually got really big vertebrae, big femurs. You know, I mean, they're very, very huge. I've actually got to see a replica of Argentinosaurus's back vertebrae, and it's very huge. It's almost as tall as I am, and so it's very amazing to actually see these animals as to actually visualize these animals as actually very powerful animals. And when we actually look at Argentinosaurus, with its front legs, or with its front forelimbs, its front limbs, they don't have that much of a thumb claw to a certain extent, like most diplodocids and brachiosaurs. Because since Titanosaurs were actually kind of almost losing that claw and that kind of like thumb claw in the front limbs, it's because you see they were not actually going to be like using it that much. It's because you see the only time they would probably use it is probably when they were actually at a younger age, probably like when they're at a subadult stage, when they're actually encountering predators a lot more often. And so there's basically like new theories coming out of like whether or not sauropods actually did take care of their young, and whether or not they actually probably like they just laid their eggs. Either they actually laid their eggs and then just left them to be, or otherwise they were cared for, and actually the young were actually cared for in the herd. But since the sauropodlets, they're actually the hatchling sauropods, were probably weren't going to be joining the herd like right away. I think they were probably going to be like finding food first, avoid predation as quick as they can, and then they basically just probably join the herd probably when they're probably like, say, maybe at like a like dog to hog size, kind of that kind of size basically. I mean, they're not really going to be that big, because since there are actually tracks to show that small sauropods, actually the baby sauropods, probably maybe ranging of like, say, maybe like 10 years old, probably did live at the herd, probably did actually join the herd as quickly as they could. to actually avoid predation. And then those tracks are actually and if you can find those tracks in Spain. I just can't remember the location, but it's in Spain. That's all I can actually say. But since that there is a site in Argentina about the nesting style of Argentinosaurus is called Alcomahuevo in Argentina. And since the Alcomahuevo is actually named, Alcomahuevo is actually a name of a volcano, and also it's actually Spanish for more eggs. And so it's actually very proper to actually for that site to be called Alcomahuevo, especially it's like a valley full of fossilized eggshells and eggs, nests everywhere, showing that these animals did actually take care of their eggs majority of their time, but probably they were just guarded by probably guarded. The eggs were probably guarded, but even though they probably did get victimized by predators. And since there are actually Abulosaurs, there was an Abulosaurus skeleton found in Alcomahuevo near nests, near some of the nests, and actually it's called Scorpiovenator. And so it was probably mostly a scavenger. Probably didn't actually hunt very often, but even though it probably did hunt when it actually could, but probably actually hunted smaller prey. Probably actually did prey on some of the smaller sauropod, probably small Argentinosaurus. But even though it's actually kind of actually interesting, because at first paleontologists thought that Scorpiovenator was actually the parent of these eggs, but turned out they were wrong. Turned out that theory was wrong, since that it was actually Argentinosaurus eggs that were actually there. And then, but basically, Argentinosaurus, just your basic large sauropod from South America. It's considered to be the largest sauropod in South America, probably the largest sauropod in the Western Hemisphere, by any chance. And I think probably the largest in the Eastern Hemisphere. I just can't totally remember the name. I actually have to look it up at some point. Is found in Africa, and it's a fairly large. It's a very large sauropod, and there's still some debate whether or not it actually is the largest and heaviest dinosaur. But that's it for now, and next week would actually be a special episode. So this time I'll actually post more links on the Facebook fan page of whether or not of what kind of prehistoric animal you want me to talk about. Could be a prehistoric mammal, could be a marine reptile, could be a shark, could be a pterosaur, could be another dinosaur, could be anything right now. So, but I like to stick to the vertebrates basically. But anyway, but I'll post links on the Facebook fan page. Keep up to date on that, and you can actually still send me questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life by emailing me at dinocris71@gmail.com, or otherwise you can actually follow me on Twitter, and also you can actually post your questions on the Facebook fan page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, and you can actually post the questions in the comments section on any post, basically. And you can also take care of the people around you, and also younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for a good education. It's very important to have a good education. With a good education, you get a good job in the future. When I mean younger people, I meant like people that are like from basically youngsters, like toddlers, all the way to high school. Yes, and so since that it's very important for you guys to actually understand what I'm talking about. And when I mean guys, I don't mean like just like males in general. I'm basically mentioning to everybody out there, men, women, children, you name it. That's it for now, and I'll see you guys next week.